3 minutes ago, the palace unleashed a shockwave that ripped through the heart of the British monarchy. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has just been officially granted Sandringham Estate, the vast 20,000-acre crown jewel that Queen Camilla has schemed and whispered about claiming for more than 20 long years. The world watched Camilla force a brittle smile in front of the cameras, but her eyes burned with something far darker. They screamed murder, pure, unfiltered betrayal. What devastating secret agreement did Kate reach with King Charles? Why would the monarch deliberately humiliate his own wife in front of the entire world? In one single announcement, the ancient institution had declared open war on itself, and the bloodiest chapter in modern royal history was now unfolding in real time. The announcement hit like a bomb. Within minutes, global media outlets were screaming the same brutal headline: Camilla betrayed. Royal sources close to the Queen wasted no time leaking the truth of her immediate private meltdown, how she reportedly raged through the corridors, demanding explanations in a voice shaking with fury and disbelief. While the public saw carefully staged smiles, something far more telling appeared in King Charles. His hand trembled visibly as he signed the document that transferred the estate, the first undeniable clue that he had chosen Kate over the woman he had waited decades to marry. The decision carried the weight of years of quiet tension, finally breaking into the open. This bombshell was no act of sudden generosity. Back in 2005, Camilla had written a private memo that insiders now describe as her most revealing confession. In cold, determined language, she had demanded Sandringham as her rightful forever home the moment Charles became king. She had already begun planning every last detail in her mind: the renovations, the fabrics, the grand parties she would host, even the quiet corner where her story would one day end. All of it vanished in a single stroke. When Kate stepped forward to deliver her own public statement, she appeared the picture of calm elegance and quiet gratitude. Every word was perfectly poised, but those closest to the negotiations understood the truth. Behind that serene mask lay months of ruthless, calculated maneuvering that had finally delivered its prize. For the first time, the deep and long-buried grudge Camilla has carried against the so-called perfect Middleton princess began cracking into view. This was never simply about land or property. It was deeply personal, a silent war between two women who both believed they were destined for the crown's greatest treasures. And buried inside the carefully worded announcement was one hidden clause so explosive it threatened to rewrite the line of succession forever. But this wasn't a sudden decision. It was the final devastating move in a war that began the moment Camilla first set eyes on Sandringham. Queen Camilla didn't just covet Sandringham, she believed the sprawling Norfolk estate belonged to her by divine right, a prize long overdue after decades of patience, scandal, and silent endurance. In the hushed darkness of their private rooms, she would press close to Charles and murmur the same insistent promise she needed to hear repeated back: "That estate is mine when you're king." And he had sworn it, again and again. Over years that stretched into decades, those words became her anchor, the one certainty she could cling to while the world judged her, mocked her, waited for her to disappear. She mapped every inch of Sandringham in her mind. She sketched guest lists for summers that had not yet arrived. She even chose the quiet corner beneath the ancient oaks where her story would one day conclude. Destiny, she told herself. Reward for waiting. The evidence of that obsession still exists in fragments outsiders were never meant to see. A diary page from the mid-1990s, written in her tight, furious hand, declares Sandringham plainly: "My reward for waiting." No hesitation, no qualification, just ownership claimed in ink long before any crown touched her head. Then came the love letter Charles penned in 2004, yellowed paper, trembling script, the kind of private vow that should have remained sealed forever. "Sandringham will be yours," he wrote, "when the time is right. I promise you that." She carried those words like armor. She believed them because she had to. Years later, she walked the estate grounds beside architects, pointing, measuring, dreaming aloud. The memory of that day now stings with cruel irony. She selected the exact shade of silk for the drawing room drapes. She approved patterns for the upholstery, ordered bespoke pieces from craftsmen who promised delivery when Her Majesty is ready. Every choice felt like laying claim to a future already written. Until it wasn't. The blow landed without warning. One ordinary afternoon last month, Kate Serene, untouchable Kate, was quietly escorted through those same halls on the very same tour Camilla had once taken as her birthright. The news reached Camilla not through any official channel, but through a single, devastating phone call. The estate she had planned, decorated, mourned over in advance was slipping away. Not to an enemy from outside the family, to the woman everyone still called the perfect princess. The contrast cut deeper than any public humiliation ever could. That was the moment the mask cracked. A leaked audio fragment captures what happened next. Camilla's voice, raw and unrecognizable, rising into a scream that echoes through empty corridors. That woman will not take what is mine. The fury was volcanic, legendary. The kind palace staff still whisper about in hushed tones. She had waited. She had endured. And now the one promise Charles had ever made her, the only one that truly mattered, was being torn away by the daughter-in-law she had always quietly despised. Yet even in her rage, Camilla never spoke of the older, darker warning tied to Sandringham itself. An ancient whisper passed down through generations of royals. The estate devours queens who claim it too fiercely. She had laughed it off once, called it superstition meant for weaker bloodlines. She ignored it at her peril. While Camilla plotted in the shadows, nursing wounds no one else could see, a far more dangerous rival was quietly rising, and the palace never saw her coming. Everyone called her Sweet Kate. The gentle smile, the flawless poise, the endless charity appearances that made the public sigh with quiet admiration. The palace looked at her and saw safety, stability, a daughter-in-law who knew her place. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Behind every carefully curated photograph and every measured word, Catherine Middleton had been orchestrating the most ruthless, most elegant power play the modern monarchy had ever witnessed. She never stormed the gates. She never raised her voice in public. She simply waited until the moment was perfect, then made King Charles hand her Sandringham on a silver platter. Not because she asked. Because he had no choice but to offer it. It began quietly in 2024. Anonymous courtiers now confirm what few dared whisper at the time. Kate held a series of discreet, high-level strategy sessions with the king's most trusted advisors. No fanfare. No leaked agendas. Just closed doors, lowered voices, and a single unwavering goal. She understood vulnerability better than anyone. Her own cancer diagnosis had stripped away the last illusions of invincibility surrounding the royal family. The nation had watched her suffer in dignified silence. The world had sent flowers, prayers, messages of love. And Charles, already fragile, already grieving, had felt every tremor of that public anguish in his bones. She turned that shared pain into leverage so subtle, so devastating, it barely registered until it was too late. Her illness became the emotional fulcrum that tilted the entire balance. One rainy afternoon, over private tea in a room few ever enter, Kate sat across from her father-in-law. The conversation has been reconstructed from fragments pieced together by those in the know. She spoke softly, humbly. She expressed gratitude for the support she had received during her darkest months. Then, almost as an afterthought, she mentioned how Sandringham had always felt like a place of healing, a sanctuary, a legacy worth protecting for the next generation. Charles listened, his eyes filled, and in that moment of raw, unguarded emotion, he offered what she had quietly positioned him to offer. The estate, the keys, the future. She accepted with the same graceful nod she used at garden parties. No triumph in her expression, only quiet resolve. When William learned the truth that his wife had bypassed his stepmother entirely, that she had secured the prize Camilla had coveted for decades, he froze. The color drained from his face. For the first time in their marriage, he felt the full weight of what Kate was capable of achieving when the stakes were existential. He had always believed he could bridge the divide between the women who mattered most to him. Now that bridge was burning. The Middletons had been moving pieces long before anyone noticed. Carol, in particular, emerged as the silent architect. She had spent years cultivating quiet alliances, offering counsel that sounded like maternal concern, but carried the precision of strategy. It was Carol who first urged Kate to study the Sandringham deeds, 2 full years of meticulous research into ancient titles, inheritance clauses, and obscure legal loopholes. What began as curiosity hardened into certainty. Kate knew exactly what she was claiming, and exactly what it would cost everyone else. And then came the final, breathtaking demand. One single condition Kate insisted upon before she would sign anything. A condition so sharp, so lethal, it could strip Camilla of future titles and influence with surgical precision. She delivered it calmly. Charles agreed. The document was sealed, but no crown jewel comes without a price, and the dark history of Sandringham itself was about to drag them all into the abyss. Sandringham isn't just an estate, it is a graveyard of royal secrets, where ambition curdles into tragedy, and every shadowed corridor remembers more than it should. Kings have drawn their final breaths within its walls. Forbidden loves have been concealed in its forgotten wings. And now Catherine, the Princess of Wales, steps across the threshold as rightful owner, while Queen Camilla stands locked outside, staring at the very prize she once believed was hers by fate. What ancient curse clings to these grounds like frost on the windows? Why did Queen Elizabeth II, in a rare unguarded moment late in life, describe Sandringham as the place where dreams go to die? The answer is colder, darker, and far more dangerous than any headline has yet dared to admit. It began over a century ago. In the spring of 1910, King Edward VII collapsed in the master bedroom, the same four-poster that now waits for new occupants. Servants later swore the air turned thick, almost suffocating, as though the house itself refused to let him go quietly. He lingered for hours, gasping, while the family gathered in helpless silence. When the end came, the room fell so still that one footman claimed he could hear his own heartbeat echoing off the walls. No one spoke of it openly afterward, but the story took root. Sandringham claimed its first royal soul, and it would not be the last. Decades passed. George VI, the reluctant king who hated the spotlight, kept his most dangerous secret here. In the East Wing, behind a door that still bears the original brass key, a woman who was never his wife lived for months at a time. She arrived under cover of night, left the same way. Letters were burned in the grate. Footsteps were muffled on thick carpets. The staff who knew were paid to forget. Yet the house remembered. Whispers of her laughter, of hushed arguments, of a love that could have toppled a throne, still seemed to drift through the corridors on winter evenings when the wind howls just right. Then came the 1950s. A royal baby unacknowledged, illegitimate, was born in secrecy on the estate grounds. The child was spirited away within hours. The mother, a young woman tied too closely to the family, vanished from public life soon after. Official records show nothing. No birth certificate, no mention in any diary. But groundsmen who worked the outer fields that summer still speak in low voices of a single night when floodlights burned until dawn and a black car left without headlights. The scandal was buried so deep that even now only fragments surface enough to haunt, never enough to prove. Camilla knew the stories. She had heard them all. Yet a leaked recording from years ago captures her voice trembling as she told a close confidante. The estate devours queens. It always has. She laughed afterward as though to dismiss the warning. But the fear lingered in her tone. She ignored it anyway. She walked the halls, planned her future, convinced the house would bend to her will. Kate arrived for her first private night visit only weeks ago. She was alone except for a single equerry. Everything appeared serene until the lights failed. A sudden, complete blackout swallowed the house. Candles were lit in haste. Phones died without explanation. For nearly 40 minutes the estate stood in perfect darkness, as though something ancient had drawn breath and held it. When power returned, Kate emerged calm, unruffled. But those who saw her face in the flickering candlelight swear her eyes carried something new. Recognition. The deed itself was signed in the hidden chapel beneath the main house. Midnight. No witnesses except the king and a trusted clerk. Charles placed his name on the paper under the faint glow of a single lantern. The air was heavy. The silence absolute. Some say the chapel walls seemed to lean inward, listening. And still the estate guards its most lethal secret, one final revelation, capable of shattering the monarchy beyond repair. The walls weren't the only ones listening inside the palace. A far more dangerous war was already raging. Behind the heavy velvet curtains of Buckingham Palace, in a small windowless room lit only by low lamps and the faint glow of a single desk light, 3 figures gathered at 2 o'clock in the morning to decide the future of the crown. King Charles, Prince William, Catherine. No one else. Camilla received no summons, no courtesy call, no warning. The door was locked from the inside. The clock on the mantel ticked with merciless precision, marking each of the 47 minutes that would alter everything. What was spoken in that suffocating silence has since leaked in fragments, handwritten notes smuggled out by a shaken aide, voice memos captured on a forgotten recorder, recollections pieced together from people who could no longer stay quiet. The words still burn. The meeting began with Charles looking older than his years, shoulders hunched under an invisible weight. He spoke first, voice cracking on the edges. He laid out the decision he had already made but could not yet face. Sandringham would go to Kate. Not as a gift, as a necessity. William sat rigid, fists clenched on the table, torn between the woman who had stood beside him through every storm, and the stepmother who had once tried to carve a place for herself in the fractured family. Loyalty pulled him in 2 directions at once. He wanted to defend Camilla, to demand fairness, to remind his father of promises made in quieter times. Yet every time he opened his mouth, Kate's steady gaze met his across the table. Calm, unyielding, reminding him of the life they had built together and the one they could still lose. Then came the moment that broke the room. Charles lifted his head, eyes wet, and uttered the sentence that ended Camilla's dream in a single breath. Kate is the future I need. Not the future the monarchy needed. Not the future the country deserved. The future he needed. Personal. Desperate. A confession wrapped in royal language. The admission hung there, raw and irreversible. William's face crumpled for a fraction of a second before he forced it back into composure. He understood then that his father was no longer choosing between wives or daughters-in-law. He was choosing survival his own, the institutions, perhaps even the children's. And survival, in that dim room at that desperate hour, meant sidelining Camilla completely. Outside those walls, Camilla's world was already unraveling. At 3 in the morning, her phone began lighting up with frantic calls to Charles, to aides, to anyone who might answer. None did. The lines went straight to voicemail. She paced the corridors alone, messages piling up unread, each unanswered ring widening the chasm. Palace CCTV later captured the moment she stopped in a shadowed hallway, pressed her hand to her mouth, and let the tears come silent at first. Then shaking sobs that no one was there to witness or comfort. The queen who had waited decades was reduced to a figure crying in the dark while the future was decided without her. The legal clause sealed in that meeting was brutal in its efficiency. Ownership of Sandringham transferred irrevocably to Catherine, effective immediately, with ironclad protections that would hold even if Charles died tomorrow. No reversion, no challenge, no escape hatch for Camilla. It was done. And still one final demand remained, the condition Kate had insisted upon before she would accept anything at all. A single merciless stipulation that forced Charles to betray his wife, not just privately, but in full view of the world. He agreed because he had no other path left. William thought he could stay neutral until the betrayal reached his own marriage. Prince William never wanted any of this. He had spent years trying to hold the fragile pieces of his family together, balancing the weight of a crown he never asked for. The expectations of a nation, the quiet hopes of his wife, and the lingering shadow of a stepmother who had once been the villain in tabloid stories, but had become something closer to family. When King Charles signed Sandringham over to Kate, that delicate balance shattered. The estate wasn't just land anymore. It became the last neutral ground in a household already fractured beyond repair. Now William sleeps in rooms that legally belong to his wife, while Camilla paces the corridor outside, her presence a constant, silent accusation. The war he had tried so hard to prevent had finally reached his own bedroom door. Late one night, after the children were asleep, the argument erupted. Kate stood calm at first, arms folded, voice low and measured. William's tone rose quickly, anger mixed with disbelief. How could she accept something so openly humiliating to Camilla? How could she force his father into that impossible choice? Kate didn't flinch. She reminded him of the years she had endured scrutiny, illness, isolation, all while the family tiptoed around old wounds. This isn't about cruelty, she said. This is about protecting what comes next, our children. The monarchy. Us. William shot back that she had turned survival into conquest. Words flew like shards. Doors were shut hard. Silence followed, thick and wounded. The next evening, Camilla appeared at William's private quarters unannounced. She looked smaller than he had ever seen, her eyes red-rimmed, hands trembling as she begged him to speak to his father, to undo what had been done. I waited my whole life for this family to accept me, she whispered. Don't let her erase me completely. William listened. He wanted to promise he would fix it. He wanted to believe he still could. But the words stuck in his throat. Camilla left without waiting for an answer, her footsteps fading down the hall like a verdict. In the quiet hours that followed, William opened the small leather journal he kept hidden in a drawer. The entry dated that night reads simply, in his own tight handwriting, "Today my family died." Not dramatically. Not with flourish. Just the stark truth as he felt it. The pages creased where his thumb pressed too hard, as though trying to erase the words even as he wrote them. The children sensed the fracture without understanding it. George asked once, in a small voice over breakfast, why Granny Camilla had been crying in the garden. Charlotte wanted to know if she had done something wrong. William forced a smile, changed the subject. But the questions lingered like smoke. Kate answered gently when they asked her later something about grown-up worries, but her eyes met William's across the table, steady and unapologetic. Then came the ultimatum. Kate delivered it in the stillness of their bedroom. Voice ice cold and final. It's me or the past, William. You can't keep trying to save everyone. Choose. No raised voice. No tears. Just the quiet certainty of someone who had already calculated every outcome. William stared at her for a long moment. The man who had once promised to protect her now facing the cost of that promise. He went to Charles the following morning. The meeting was brief. Voices never rose above a murmur, but when William left, the door slammed behind him with enough force to echo through the private wing. Nothing was resolved. Everything was worse. Later that night, alone with his phone, William sent one single text message. The recipient's name has never been confirmed publicly, but the content has leaked in fragments. A handful of words that prove beyond doubt that the future heir is finally choosing sides, and the choice will change everything. Camilla had stayed silent long enough. Now the Queen was about to unleash hell. Queen Camilla is not going quietly. While the palace threw open its doors to celebrate Catherine's glittering victory, the woman they had just sidelined was already moving in the dark, her fury sharpened into something precise and lethal. She had stayed silent long enough. Now the Queen was about to unleash hell. Leaked documents, smuggled out by insiders who could no longer stomach the betrayal, reveal a shadow operation already in motion, an intricate web designed not only to reclaim Sandringham, but to dismantle the woman who had taken it from her. The evidence is so explosive that senior aides tried desperately to bury it before it reached the public. They failed. This is the moment the mask finally came off. She began by forging alliances in the shadows. Disgruntled courtiers, loyalists who had watched Camilla endure decades of humiliation, answered her quiet summons. In hidden rooms and late-night calls, they pledged their help, feeding her fragments of palace intelligence, copying documents, turning their backs on the new order. Together they built a machine of quiet revenge, each piece clicking into place with ruthless efficiency. At the center of it all lay the forged letter, written in Camilla's own hand but styled to look like an urgent appeal from Charles himself. The document was crafted to leak to the press at the perfect moment. It would paint Kate as the ruthless opportunist who exploited a grieving king during his weakest hour. The wording was surgical, every sentence designed to ignite public outrage and force awkward questions inside the palace walls. Then came the meeting no one was supposed to know about. In a discreet office across London, Camilla sat opposite one of the country's most feared divorce lawyers. The footage, captured on a staff member's phone and now circulating in tight circles, shows her leaning forward, eyes blazing. "I want every clause examined," she said. "I want her stripped of everything she thinks she's won." The lawyer nodded, already drafting the opening salvos of a war that could shake the institution to its core. In the middle of one sleepless night, the mask slipped completely. A staff phone recorded the raw moment. Camilla alone in her dressing room, voice breaking into a guttural cry. "I waited 17 years for this. 17 years of patience, of swallowing insults, of smiling through the pain, only to have the prize ripped away by the one woman she had always underestimated." The recording ends with a sob that still echoes in the ears of those who heard it. Yet even as her pain poured out, her plan sharpened. She has already chosen the one royal heirloom she will remove from Sandringham, before Kate ever sets foot inside, as owner a priceless piece tied to generations of queens, small enough to vanish quietly, devastating enough to send a message no one can ignore. And that is only the opening move. Insiders now whisper of the constitutional crisis she intends to trigger, a legal challenge so audacious it could force Parliament to intervene and rewrite the rules of succession itself. But the final card Camilla is holding remains locked away, a secret so dangerous it could topple the entire monarchy if played at the wrong moment. She is waiting, watching, ready. 2 queens, 1 estate, and a kingdom on the brink of collapse,